Hello everyone, and welcome to a new series we're starting on the OSU RGC channel called Chart Analysis. In this series, we're going to take a chart from any rhythm game and go through everything about it, from the song and artist info down to the nitty-gritty intricacies of how it was charted. The first chart we're going to tackle today is the expert singles chart of Muteki Buffalo from DDR A20+. This song comes to us from C-Show at a BPM of 176 with half-tempo slowdowns at 88 BPM and a length of 1 minute and 51 seconds. Muteki Buffalo was initially released as part of the Golden Leaguer Plus Privilege event. This Golden League event was a point-based unlock event that was only available to the DDR 20th Anniversary Gold model cabinets, and it worked in a tier system, where the more you played, the more points you would accumulate, and this would place you into one of 3 tiers. The song was released to Gold class players on October 7th, 2020. The requirement was then lessened to Silver class on December 9th, 2020, then further lessened to Bronze class on October 20th, 2021, and finally was made available by default for all players on February 16th, 2022, nearly a year and a half after release. So now that we've gone through some of the backstory, let's hop straight into the chart itself. Like I said before, we're looking exclusively at the expert singles chart. At time of the song's release, this was the highest rated difficulty for the song at a 15. However, since then, a challenge 17 has been released as well. So if you want to see a chart analysis for the challenge chart in the future, then make sure to like this video, subscribe, and comment down below. The chart starts slow with a decently long intro of just a few up-down jumps. And it may seem silly, but these are actually really important to note, as recognizing up-down jumps can actually be used as a tool to spot a couple weirdly oriented patterns later on in the chart. After a couple measures of low-density arrows, we get our first stream of the chart. Starting on the right foot, the stream ends with a long 7-arrow jack on the down arrow. And here's where our first opportunity for a dynamic strategy shows up. The stream before this actually flows into the down arrow jack quite well, though at 176 BPM, some players may opt to foot switch this pattern, as is shown in this play by Japanese player Johan. Directly after this, we get into the bulk of what the essence of this chart actually is. We start to see some quick bursts that start with pretty run-of-the-mill patterning, but later on, it's going to switch things up quite a bit. So starting here at measure 18, we have an anchored right foot on the right arrow, and then the left foot is going to move around and hit all of the other arrows. Then at measure 19, this switches with the left foot staying anchored on the left arrow, but then moving here at measure 20 to set us up for the up-down jump. At measure 20, on this blue up-down jump, we actually have something really interesting going on that will repeat itself a couple times throughout the chart. This 3-note sequence before it will lead you to have your left foot resting on the up arrow. And should you leave it like that, you'll find that the first 5-note stream of the chart has you doing a spin. So to remedy that, we're going to want to swap the orientation of our feet either before or after this up-down jump. This idea will repeat itself very often, so if you see an up-down jump, then more often than not, you're going to want to switch your feet for the stream that comes directly after it. As you begin to play this chart more and more, you'll start to get a feel for when that will happen. After this, we get a slight break of 8th notes going from measure 22 to measure 26. It's patterned in a way where it asks the player to play these arrows as extended crossovers, but players may opt to double step these arrows to avoid doing that. The pattern is slow enough that it really just comes down to player preference. This section from measure 26 to measure 34 is a mostly mirrored version of measures 18 to 26, but with some slight alterations, namely this double jump at measure 27. Then at measure 28, we see another example of an up-down jump where you'll want to switch your feet for the stream after or before, as the burst before it will leave your left foot on the down arrow, and playing the stream afterwards with that orientation will have it playing as a spin. Measure 34 begins a halftime slowdown that's going to last 16 measures. While this may be annoying or hard to play for some players, since it's such a relatively small section of the chart, this makes speed mod adjustment or sudden plus strats pretty unviable, so we'll just have to stick to reading this slow for now. This entire slowdown section is full of really rough jacks and step jumps, though there is some opportunities for foot switch strategies, like here in measure 36, and then later on in measure 45. An interesting measure to note is this jump section at measure 37. It's really easy to rush these jumps because of the odd rhythm and it being such a change from that 16th note grid that we've stuck to for all of the charts so far. As long as you get a feel for where you should be timing these, you should be fine. As I mentioned before, there's another long jack here at measure 45, similar to the one at measure 17. Though a noteworthy difference is that the stream starts on the left arrow instead of the right, and then leads into the long jack on the same arrow. This, combined with the right foot being on the up arrow, could make a pivot into foot switching this left arrow pretty challenging, so try that at your own risk. Right after this section, we get another odd rhythm relative to the rest of the chart for measure 46 to 48. This is a quarter note triplet rhythm, but it starts an eighth note after the downbeat on measure 46. A good way to tackle this pattern if you are more comfortable with ghost stepping would be to play consistent eighth notes on the left arrow with the left foot. This then turns the pattern into a 3 against 2 polyrhythm for all my musically minded players out there. If you do decide to ghost step this section, then you can leave your left foot on the left arrow for the entire thing and it flows all the way into measure 48. Measure 49 has a really tough bursty stream pattern that can actually be really challenging for a lot of players to time properly. If you look carefully, you'll see that the up arrow stays consistent, but the patterning will switch the foot which hits it. This creates a pattern which forces you to turn your body back and forth, ending an extended drill stream to end the slowdown section. Those streams that made us turn our body at the end of the slowdown were clearly a warm-up for the rest of the chart, as we can start to see that exact same type of patterning copied down here starting at measure 51. Even though the 3-note bursts are preceded by up-down jumps, which may sometimes indicate an ambiguous foot orientation, we actually don't need to switch our feet for these, since the jumps before lead our feet carefully into the correct position for this entire section. As long as you follow the patterns as intended, you'll be fine foot-wise. Though there is actually a sneaky little crossover here at measure 55. It flows pretty well, but at this speed, it can still be a challenge for a lot of players, especially since we haven't really had this speed of crossover as of yet in this chart. From here to the end, there will actually be a lot of quick, twisty patterns that, while flowing well, are very fast at 176 BPM. So my tip would be to let the direction of the leading patterns guide where to turn your body and to make sure you actually put that effort into turning. Measure 57 then has the same hard to spot crossover pattern like in measure 55, but this time it's actually a cross under. So should you choose to try and avoid either of these twisting patterns, you have to put a lot more effort into double stepping out of these 3-note streams. This would also require you to do a bit more studying to know where you need to double step and where you shouldn't, or else you'll end up turning a traditional pattern into a crossover or cross under instead of vice versa. Though another reason why this wouldn't really be recommended is because the final section of this chart from measure 60 to measure 62 has forced crossover and cross under patterning. This outro is definitely the peak of the chart when it comes to physical exertion required. You have to make a mindful effort to begin swinging your body from left to right on this section here, and then back to left afterwards. The end of measure 62 to the end of measure 63 is practically the same thing, where you'll be swinging your body from left to right, then back to left, but it starts this as a cross under instead of a crossover. Other than that, it's the same idea, just mirrored. The final two measures containing notes are actually a near exact mirroring of measures 16 and 17. So this means that the final jack will be on the up arrow instead of the down arrow like it was in measure 17. Again, you can foot switch this if you want, but there are also players who may be more comfortable jacking with the left foot instead of the right foot, or vice versa. So this will be a strategy based on player preference. And with that, we have Muteki Buffalo ESP. Hopefully this analysis is able to help some players with having the courage to take on this fairly twisty 15. If there's any other charts that you would like to see us analyze, then make sure to put it down in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.